There's nothing more appropriate than driving a Lotus in the rain. So first things first, you had a choice between a Sport or a Touring chassis. I went with the Sport on this one, for better or worse. There were a lot of different dissenting opinions on what should be done, and it was really hard to get good information because we had to order the car 3 years ago, way before there were any reviews. This is a little bit more high-frequency jounce and jiggliness than I associate with typical Lotuses. However, the Evora GT, I would say, was slightly stiffer, so this feels appropriate to me. Now, anyone who's driven a Lotus before, this will be instantly familiar. You have that same telepathic steering feel, and I could lobby every cliche in the book trying to get you guys to understand just how brilliant it is, but suffice it to say, it's a hydraulic rack. It's very, very immediate. There's a ton of feedback. You feel the texture. You get that tug at the wheel. A Porsche comes really close, but is not quite at this level. I would say a McLaren is the only other car I've ever driven that has this much texture, this much information. And of course, you've got double wishbones all around, mid-engine. It's just special. You're getting a little bit of heat in it. Of course, I'm on break-in, but part of my conspiracy theory with magazines is that they always seem to shit on the shift feel of Lotuses. I don't get it. Even Savage Geese, who I really respect, was complaining perhaps at 10/10ths when you're really trying to rush these gates, it can be a little off, but it is such a unique mechanical kind of metal on metal shift feel. To me, it's just fantastic. Much has been said about this 3.5-liter Toyota sourced Edelbrock supercharged V6, only making 400 horsepower. And yeah, the power to weight ratio isn't scintillating, but it is more than enough power around town. It does not have that kit car feel. It doesn't smell like glue, which all the old ones did. It actually is much more comfortable seating wise. A few of you asked me how taller folks fit in it. I had my friend who is 6'5" in the car yesterday. He owns a 718 Boxster S, and he feels that he has more room in this car. Decent interface. They could use some updates. It always defaults to a mode I don't want it to be on, typical Lotus stuff, but it's decent. It's got CarPlay. Everything kind of works. The clutch effort, I would say, is dead on where you want it. Again, absolutely plenty of power. You are not wanting for more. And for all the people saying Ferrari wannabe, Lamborghini wannabe, and I don't mean this in any braggadocious sense, but I own those cars as well. I have a 296 Ferrari on the way. Of course, I've had my Huracan for many years, and I have my Technica coming any day now. That is a different experience. In real life, day to day, there's a sweetness about a Lotus that is just kind of incomparable, and it just looks unbelievable. I think they nailed the styling, beyond nailed the styling. One thing I want to say about gearing, this car is geared so well. A very often levied and somewhat deserved complaint about the 718s is that around town in real life, you're never really getting out of second gear if you want to go to redline. Now look, this car redlines at 6,500, but I also will say it's shorter geared. It's got better ratios for real life. This is really indicative of a company that's had a major capital infusion, but is still able to imbue all of the classic Lotus traits into making the car really, really special. I absolutely love this thing. If it's within your wheelhouse, if it's within your purview, if you're looking at a car like this and you don't want another Porsche, this is something that you really ought to consider. Now, in transparency, again, we don't know what the long-term reliability is going to be like, and I could understand for some folks who don't have a dealership nearby, that could be a little bit scary. But if you live in a major metropolitan area with a Lotus dealer, this is really something to consider. You're not going to see it every day, and this has to be just about the last mid-engine manual transmission sports car we're ever going to get. What else can I say? Let's talk about features. It's got niceties like heated seats, memory seats, a backup camera that's really crisp and modern, a really good KEF audio system, CarPlay, auto lights. These are all unusual things for a Lotus. This is all indicative of a new era and of a car that they're intending for you to drive and enjoy on a daily basis. So the original pricing on these was $96,250 with destination and everything, and now I think the same car is something around $110. A halfway decently equipped 718 GTS 4.0 is at least this much money, and that's without a dealer trying to get you to go over MSRP. These don't use any fancy trickery. There's no adjustable suspension or anything like that. You just have your drive mode, but the suspension is fixed. And this is Lotus's calling card. This is what they are so unbelievably good at. A cosseting ride with a car that has zero body roll and the most lively, gorgeous, textured steering feel, and that mid-engine balance, right? The center of gravity seems directly centered around the midline of the car, more or less my rear end. So is it worth waiting 33 months for my Lotus Emira? Absolutely. What else can you get that looks like this, that feels like this, if the only reason to buy one of these cars is how they make you feel? And unlike Lotuses of yore, this is one that you can drive every day comfortably, even in this most aggressive setup, and it makes you feel incredible. And I'm an unabashed super fan of Ferrari, Lamborghini, Porsche, McLaren as well. They all have their place. That's all I'm trying to say. It's not an also-ran, it's not a wannabe. They have an incredible provenance, incredible history, incredible racing heritage. This is a car that, like mine, will share many a garage with those other famous marques. You don't get one of these because you can't afford something else. You get one of these because there is nothing else like it. But this might just be the very last of the apex of everything that you can do with internal combustion. It is absolutely, unbelievably, mesmerizingly, gobsmackingly brilliant. As Jeremy Clarkson would say, it's one of the most special cars in the world. And to paraphrase his infamous review of the Evora that got me so enamored with the brand all those years ago, the name may sound like a women's dress shop in Harrogate, and you may think you're better off buying the Porsche Cockster, but believe me, you aren't. Good night, everybody.